Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take a stack of information, cut through the noise, and really unpack the most important insights for you. Today, we're embarking on a truly fascinating journey into a collection of headlines from India. It gives you this really comprehensive snapshot of a nation in constant motion. We're looking at significant economic shifts, some breathtaking technological leaps, intricate geopolitical maneuvers, and even some, surprising cultural adaptations. Our mission today is basically to dive deep into these top stories. These are from July 31st, 2025, and really get to the core of what they mean. Not just for India, obviously, but for the world, too. It's a compelling mix, isn't it? High-stakes trade talks, groundbreaking space missions. They're really pushing the boundaries of Earth observation, massive tech investments, redefining regional economies, and even a bit of cricket politics, which reveals these underlying diplomatic tensions. As we begin this deep dive, what immediately leaps out to you from this broad canvas?
Well, what's truly fascinating here, I think, if we kind of zoom out and look at the bigger picture, is how these seemingly disparate headlines, they look separate, but when you view them collectively, they paint an incredibly dynamic and frankly complex portrait of India's evolving position on the global stage. We'll definitely delve into how economic leverage is being used almost like a tool in high-level diplomacy. We'll look at how technological advancement isn't just about innovation, it's about shaping future power dynamics. And critically, how internal social dynamics, things happening within India, are increasingly playing out in national policy and even influencing global corporate strategies. Big companies are paying attention. Each story really offers a unique lens, a different angle, and by connecting them, we aim to offer you a far richer, more nuanced understanding than any single news report could probably provide. It's really a snapshot of a nascent and rapid, often surprising evolution, navigating both its own domestic imperatives and these really complex international pressures.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Our first headline, this one comes with pretty significant economic repercussions. The announcement of new U.S. tariffs on Indian goods. President Donald Trump has declared a pretty substantial 25% tariff on Indian goods. That's effective August 1st. So that's a noticeable jump, right, from the current 10% baseline that many goods previously faced. And the administration has even warned of potentially higher global rates if, individual trade deals aren't secured to their liking. India, as you know, fifth largest economy in the world, and it has this truly massive and complex trade relationship with the U.S. Just to put it in perspective, in 2024 alone, India exported $87 billion in goods and another $33 billion in services to the U.S. Huge numbers. But despite these significant volumes, the U.S. currently maintains a $45.7 billion trade deficit with India. And that, from the U.S. perspective anyway, seems to be the primary economic catalyst for these new tariffs.
Exactly. And this isn't just about the raw numbers, though, they are considerable. When we look deeper, these tariffs are precisely targeted. They're designed to hit specific high-growth sectors where India has made really significant inroads. And they'll likely have a ripple effect, I think, that extends far beyond just the immediate trade balance. Take pharmaceuticals, for example. Nearly one-third of India's pharma exports, we're talking critical products like essential cancer medications, life-saving vaccines, even everyday pain relievers that go directly to the U.S. This is an industry that saw really robust 16% annual growth recently. So imposing a 25% tariff here, well, it could significantly impact not only Indian manufacturers, but also American consumers, right? Potentially raising prices or limiting access to affordable generics. This isn't just hypothetical. We've seen how trade disputes in the past have led to supply chain disruptions for vital medical goods.
Right, that's a huge concern. And it's not just pharma, is it?
No, absolutely not. Then there's the smartphone industry. This has been a remarkable success story for India's manufacturing ambitions, the Make in India push. The country recently surpassed China as the top U.S. smartphone exporter. That's a huge deal. And it was largely propelled by major global players like Apple, strategically shifting a significant portion of their production away from China to places like New Delhi and other Indian cities. This strategic relocation led to a massive, 240% surge in smartphone shipments from India to the U.S. just last year.
Wow, 240%. That's incredible.
It is. So tariffs on these devices could significantly disrupt this carefully cultivated supply chain. It could potentially force companies to reevaluate their production strategies or, more likely, just pass higher costs directly onto consumers. It's a clear signal, really, that the U.S. is willing to use economic pressure to influence these global manufacturing shifts.
Okay, so pharma, smartphones.
Yeah.
What else is being hit?
Well, we also can't overlook the approximately $10 billion jewelry and precious stones industry. Over 30% of its exports reach U.S. consumers. We're talking intricate diamond pieces, gold, silver, and even common household goods, things like Textiles, home linens, which are sourced extensively from India, they'll fall under these affected categories too. So if we connect this to the broader geopolitical landscape, this move clearly signals a more, let's say, entrenched protectionist approach from the U.S. and a deliberate strategic shift in U.S.-India relations. It's about using economic leverage as a pretty blunt instrument amid increasingly complex geopolitical dynamics. This also carries the inherent risk of, amplifying global economic tensions, especially as India has been actively considering deeper economic and strategic ties with alternative blocs like China and the BRICS alliance. It's a complex, high-stakes maneuver, really far-reaching implications for global trade norms.
And it gets even more nuanced, doesn't it? Creating this sort of multi-layered challenge for India. When we look at our next headline, it elaborates on President Trump's critique, not just the tariffs, but India's trade barriers and, quite pointedly, its ties to Russia. So beyond the direct 25% tariff on goods, Trump also announced specific penalties for India's ongoing, quite significant purchases of Russian oil and military equipment. Now, he did acknowledge Prime Minister Narendra Modi as a friend, which is, a significant diplomatic nod in this context, but he was also notably and very publicly critical of India's perceived high tariffs. He claimed some rates reached an astonishing 175%. And he also lambasted what he described as India's strenuous and obnoxious non-monetary trade barriers. Things like, conference customs procedures, stringent import licenses, maybe domestic content requirements, things that make it hard for foreign goods to enter the market. This critique really underlines a broader point he seems to be trying to make about a perceived lack of trade fairness from India.
Yeah, and this raises a very important question. Why is Trump so explicitly linking bilateral trade policy tariffs and barriers to India's military and energy procurement from Russia? He frames it directly as a move that undermines global efforts to pressure Moscow over the conflict in Ukraine. He's implying that India is, perhaps inadvertently, or maybe even intentionally in his view, supporting Russia's war economy. Now, that's a significant escalation, isn't it? From a simple trade dispute to a challenge of geopolitical alignment. Furthermore, he didn't just stop at bilateral issues. He specifically branded the BRICS alliance, remember, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, as inherently anti-United States. He went as far as to frame its recent activities, particularly its discussions around alternative financial mechanisms, perhaps ways to trade outside the dollar as part of a coordinated attack on the dollar. So this isn't just about tariffs on specific goods or even India's energy choices anymore. It's about a broader ideological economic confrontation on a global scale. Alliances like BRICS are being framed as direct threats to U.S. financial dominance.
Okay, but amidst all this harsh critique and these pretty hefty tariffs, there's a strange twist, wasn't there?
There was, yeah, a peculiar one. Trump also noted that India is now seemingly open to substantially lowering tariffs, which suggests that behind all the public condemnation and these punitive measures, high-level negotiations are indeed ongoing. And there remains, perhaps, a possibility for positive outcomes, maybe a de-escalation of this trade dispute. It illustrates a very complex dynamic at play in current U.S. foreign policy, doesn't it? Strategic diplomacy is being paired directly with what you could see as aggressive, punitive economic measures. It indicates a confrontational, yet ultimately maybe negotiable stance from the U.S. side. The core insight here, I think, is that Trump seems to be employing a kind of carrot-and-stick approach, using public pressure and tariffs as a negotiating tactic to secure concessions and perhaps realign India within a more U.S.-centric global order, even if it means challenging some long-standing diplomatic norms. It really highlights the multifaceted, often contradictory nature of international relations today.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Just showcases this incredibly multi-layered, sometimes frankly contradictory approach of U.S. foreign policy under this administration. Simultaneously with penalizing India economically, we have former President Trump announcing a joint energy initiative with Pakistan. The U.S. will reportedly help develop Pakistan's oil reserves through an American company. That company hasn't been publicly identified yet. And Trump even floated this truly provocative, maybe audacious idea that Pakistan, India's traditional rival, might one day supply oil to India. That suggestion alone is just it's noteworthy given the deep-seated historical rivalries and, the geopolitical sensitivities that define the India-Pakistan relationship.
It really does create a truly fascinating juxtaposition. You're absolutely right. On one hand, you have the U.S. actively punishing India economically for its independent foreign policy choices, its Russia ties, its trade barriers. And on the other, it's promoting potential regional cooperation and economic interdependence with Pakistan, a nation with a historically fraught relationship with India through this energy initiative. If we connect this to the bigger picture, This signals, perhaps, a calculated attempt to incentivize alternative regional alliances. Maybe create new vectors of economic interdependence, possibly designed to diversify energy sources away from traditional suppliers, reduce reliance on nations like Russia. It's a clear effort, I think, to reinforce American leverage on global trade norms and energy flows, while simultaneously deepening Pakistan's strategic value to Washington, maybe as a potential counterweight or alternative pivot point in South Asia.
And the idea of Pakistan supplying oil to India, I mean, that seems almost unthinkable given the history.
The audacity of floating that idea cannot be overstated. You're right. This is a scenario just fraught with logistical challenges, historical distrust, immense political hurdles. I mean, for decades, direct economic ties, especially in strategic sectors like energy, have been minimal between India and Pakistan. Why? Because of their perennial political and military tensions. Even basic trade has often been disrupted. The idea of energy interdependence would require a monumental shift in their relationship. It would demand unprecedented levels of trust and cooperation that, frankly, just don't exist right now. It would fundamentally re-engineer the energy supply chain dynamics in South Asia, potentially reducing India's reliance on Middle Eastern or Russian oil, sure, but maybe at a profound political cost if it's not handled with extreme care. The core insight here is that this isn't just an energy deal, is it? It's a strategic maneuver designed to reshape existing power dynamics in South Asia, anchoring future policy in perhaps transactional partnerships rather than purely historical alliances. While the specifics of how this energy initiative will unfold and how Pakistan might actually supply oil to India, while they remain largely undefined, but the framework itself, just suggesting it, sets the stage for potential long-term shifts in regional energy supply chains and diplomatic alignments. It's a bold play, definitely, aims to influence future strategic decisions in a very critical part of the world, possibly even forcing India to reconsider its geopolitical alignments.
Okay, let's shift gears now. Let's pivot from that high-stakes world of trade and geopolitics to India's burgeoning tech landscape, and specifically to a truly massive story, Google. Investing a staggering $6 billion to build a 1-gigawatt data center in Visakhapatnam. That's in the state of Andhra Pradesh. Now, just to give you some perspective, a 1-gigawatt data center, that's immense. It's capable of powering, hundreds of thousands of homes, or in this case, supporting an enormous amount of data processing, storage, networking for cloud services. This isn't just any investment. It marks Google's largest facility in Asia, both in terms of its sheer capacity and its financial commitment. And here's a really important detail. I think it speaks volumes about the future of tech infrastructure. A significant chunk of that investment, a full $2 billion, is specifically allocated for renewable energy infrastructure to power the site. That tells you a lot, doesn't it, about the strategic direction of these massive tech hubs.
Absolutely. And what's truly fascinating here is that this represents Google's very first data center investment on Indian soil. This isn't a minor expansion. It's a major strategic entry into one of the world's fastest-growing digital economies. It aligns perfectly with Alphabet's, that's Google's parent company, broader regional expansion efforts. They've already got significant projects in Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand. It indicates a clear and, I'd say, accelerating strategic focus on Asia as a key growth market for data services. And this move comes despite, the current international economic uncertainty and the U.S. administration's tariff policy that we just discussed. It showcases Alphabet's continued robust confidence in expanding its global data capacity, almost irrespective of the prevailing geopolitical headwinds. It's a testament, really, to their belief in India's long-term digital growth.
And for the state, Andhra Pradesh, this must be huge, especially after losing Hyderabad.
Oh, absolutely. For Andhra Pradesh, this is nothing short of a game changer. After losing its historical capital city, Hyderabad, to the newly formed state of Telangana back in 2014, Andhra Pradesh faced immense fiscal challenges, high debt, significant social welfare obligations. It was tough. The state government has since been incredibly proactive, aggressively prioritizing high-tech infrastructure and attracting foreign direct investment as a core strategy to recover and rebuild its economy. Now, local government sources, speaking off the record, have confirmed this Google development, even though Alphabet and the state IT minister Nara Lokesh have declined to publicly comment yet, probably due to ongoing sensitive negotiations. However, Lokesh has openly acknowledged other significant tech investments pouring into the state. He's strongly hinting at more major announcements, maybe as early as October.
But they're really pushing to become a major tech hub.
They really are. The state has already secured commitments for an impressive 1.6 gigawatts of data center capacity from various investors. And with this Google investment, they are now aiming to reach an ambitious 6 gigawatts within the next 5 years. positioning themselves as a major data hub. The first phase of Google's facility alone is expected to be operational in just 2 years. That's fast. This could truly position Andhra Pradesh as a significant tech hub in South Asia, drawing further investment, fostering a robust tech ecosystem, attracting top talent. And critically, it underscores the increasing strategic importance of integrating sustainable energy into these large-scale data operations. That substantial renewable energy allocation tied directly to the project. It isn't just about, corporate responsibility. It's a fundamental aspect of future-proofing massive energy-intensive infrastructure against rising costs and climate concerns. The core insight here is that Google's investment in Andhra Pradesh signals a profound strategic bet on India's digital future. And it emphasizes sustainable infrastructure as a crucial component of global tech expansion, even amidst geopolitical turbulence. It's a powerful statement about the future of green tech infrastructure.
Okay, so from building digital infrastructure on Earth to launching observational infrastructure into outer space, India is truly making waves. The Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, successfully launched the NISAR satellite. That's the landmark Earth observation mission developed jointly with NASA, the U.S. Space Agency. Launched on July 30, 2025 from Sriharikota. Now, what's particularly notable here is the launch vehicle, a GSLV F-16 rocket. This marks ISRO's first ever use of a geosynchronous satellite launch vehicle, a GSLV, which is typically their more powerful heavy lift rocket, usually for higher geostationary orbits to deploy a satellite in sun-synchronous polar orbit. That latter trajectory, it's a much lower, more precise orbit, usually reserved for their smaller workhorse PSLV rockets. So using a GSLV for this mission is a clear technical leap for ISRO, demonstrates the level of versatility, right?
Absolutely. It's a significant technical achievement. And this whole $1.5 billion project represents over a decade of intensive collaboration between ISRO and NASA. It really highlights India's growing and increasingly sophisticated role in global space science and international partnerships. NISAR itself, it weighs a substantial 2,392 kilograms. It'll orbit Earth every 97 minutes, capturing and delivering high-resolution imagery of land, ice, ocean surfaces every 12 days. And it has an expected mission lifespan of 5 years, so that sustained, high-fidelity data collection is crucial for understanding Earth's dynamic systems.
And the technology on board is pretty cutting edge too, I understand.
Yeah, it really is. A major innovation on board NISAR is its dual-frequency synthetic aperture radar, or SAR. This system uses a novel technique called sweep SAR. You can kind of imagine it like painting a very broad stroke with an incredibly fine brush. Sweep SAR essentially allows the satellite to scan a much wider area with high resolution in a single pass, significantly increasing data collection efficiency. And the dual frequency aspect. That means it uses both L-band and S-band frequencies. Think of these as different colors of radar waves. The L-band can penetrate dense vegetation, observe subsurface changes like groundwater levels, while the S-band is excellent for monitoring surface movements, think earthquakes, glacier melt. This combination allows NISAR to generate fully polarimetric and interferometric microwave imagery, basically providing an unparalleled richness of data. And it addresses shared scientific priorities between India and the U.S., particularly concerning land deformation, ecosystems, polar regions, crucial stuff.
So what's the real impact for us, for the listener?
Well, what's truly impactful for you, the listener, and for the global scientific community is that all the data collected by NISAR will be open source, freely available. It will be made publicly available within just 1 to 2 days post-capture, or even in near real time during emergencies like natural disasters. This democratization of critical geospatial data is expected to significantly bolster scientific research, climate-related decision-making, disaster response worldwide, especially perhaps for developing nations that currently lack their own sophisticated satellite capabilities. Union Minister Jitendra Singh, he aptly called the mission a scientific handshake with the world, which really reflects India's broader ambitions, I think, to lead in cooperative, data-driven space exploration for climate resilience and sustainable development. The core insight here, NISAR isn't just about scientific discovery, it's a powerful statement of India's growing soft power and its commitment to global public good through open data, cementing its position as a responsible and capable space power.
Okay, let's circle back to Google now. But this time, we're looking at it from a very different angle, the regulatory front. Google has proposed some pretty significant changes to its Play Store and advertising policies in India. This is to finally resolve an ongoing antitrust dispute with a prominent local gaming platform called Winzo. The proposal, which is currently under meticulous review by the Competition Commission of India, the CCI, would significantly expand access to what's known as real money gaming, or RMG, apps on the Android platform. This has been a particularly contentious issue in India, hasn't it? Given the country's booming mobile gaming market and well, its complex legal landscape around gaming and gambling.
It really has. And this move directly replaces Google's very limited 2022 pilot program, which for nearly 2 years only allowed a really narrow selection of apps, basically just fantasy sports and rummy on the Play Store in India. The new proposal would grant much broader distribution rights for all RMG apps, provided, and this is crucial, that developers self-declare them as lawful under India's labyrinthine and often state-specific rules. It's complicated. However, and this is a vital catch for accountability and legal compliance, developers must now provide third-party certification confirming that the game unequivocally qualifies as a game of skill. That distinction is absolutely vital because under Indian law, generally, games of chance are prohibited or heavily restricted, whereas games of skill are permitted, albeit with varying regulations across different states. It's a key legal line.
Right, the skill versus chance distinctions. The
Yeah.
certification is key.
Absolutely. And Google's proposed policy would also, for the first time, allow these certified skill-based games to be advertised in India. But again, proof of their skill status has to be supplied by recognized third-party bodies, like the All India Gaming Federation or the Federation of Indian Fantasy Sports. This comprehensive framework aims to directly correct past claims of discriminatory exclusion made by Winzo. Winzo had argued that Google's earlier pilot program unfairly favored specific games and developers while effectively blocking others from accessing the Play Store's massive user base. The CCI formally initiated an investigation into these allegations in late 2024, which seems to have directly triggered this extensive regulatory negotiation and this new proposal from Google.
And this could have implications beyond India, couldn't it?
Potentially, yes. Interestingly, Google had previously considered expanding RMG support to other high-growth markets like Brazil and Mexico, but they paused those plans in mid-2024. They chose to maintain only the India pilot participants until a clearer global policy could be established. So if this new, broader framework is approved by the CCI in India, Google intends to enable app distribution for these RMG apps within 120 days and roll out the associated advertising changes within 150 days. The core insight here is that this isn't just a resolution to a localized antitrust dispute in India. It could set a monumental precedent for real money gaming access globally, potentially redefining app eligibility and advertising practices for these contentious digital gaming formats around the world. It clearly reflects Google's evolving strategy, trying to balance platform integrity and user safety with, regulatory cooperation and fostering developer outreach in dynamic, high-growth markets like India. It really shows how specific regulatory challenges in one major country can force a global tech giant to rethink its entire approach to a significant digital economy sector.
All right, let's move to a more everyday aspect of life now, but with a fascinating twist that reveals a lot about consumer behavior and cultural adaptation. McDonald's. They're significantly rethinking their strategy in India to meet a very specific and growing consumer demand: protein-rich vegetarian options. This stands in, well, stark contrast to mature markets like the U.S., doesn't it, where plant-based offerings like the much-hyped McPlant largely failed to gain traction, primarily because customers there just overwhelmingly prefer traditional meat products. It truly goes to show how profoundly different markets can be and how global brands have to adapt or, well, fail.
It really does. And what's truly fascinating here is how deeply cultural nuances, combined with evolving health trends, drive these massive business decisions for global giants like McDonald's. India is uniquely positioned in terms of dietary habits. Roughly 39% of its population abstains from meat, often for religious, ethical, or traditional reasons. That's not just a niche market. It's a colossal segment of the population that demands bespoke solutions. You can't just ignore it. Since McDonald's entered India back in 1996, they've always meticulously tailored their menu to local tastes. That's a key part of their success there. This strategy led to the creation of enduring favorites unique to the region, like the McCalla Tikki burger, that's a spiced potato patty, the McSpicy paneer featuring Indian cheese, and even the Pizza McPuff, a savory pastry. They understood early on that just importing a global menu wouldn't cut it in India.
So they've always adapted, but now they're focusing specifically on protein for vegetarians.
Exactly. Now, in response to a clear and growing consumer interest in high-protein vegetarian meals, and this reflects increased health consciousness, a desire for more nutritionally complete fast food options among vegetarian consumers, McDonald's India has introduced what they call protein plus slices. Now, these aren't just generic plant-based patties like you might see elsewhere. They're innovative slices made from a blend of soy, pea, and whey protein. And they're meticulously designed to resemble traditional cheese in both appearance and texture. It's quite clever. This allows customers to easily customize virtually any existing menu item, a burger, a wrap with added protein. It directly reflects that broader trend in India, a demand for nutritionally enhanced fast food options that still align with traditional dietary preferences. The core insight here, I think, is that McDonald's India isn't just offering vegetarian options, they're actively innovating within that segment, addressing specific nutritional needs. It demonstrates a powerful example of product localization and real consumer-centric innovation. This model could potentially serve as a blueprint, maybe, for future expansion in other health-conscious or vegetarian-dominant regions worldwide. It proves that success in global markets often hinges on hyper-local adaptation and deep understanding.
From food to sport now, but with a geopolitical twist that brings us right back to those underlying international tensions we discussed earlier. India has officially withdrawn from its semifinal match against Pakistan in the World Championship of Legends. That's a veterans cricket tournament. And this marks the second cancellation in this particular competition due to the heightened geopolitical tensions that continue to simmer between these two nuclear-armed neighbors. Their earlier group stage encounter was also called off for precisely the same reason. It really highlights how deeply intertwined politics and even seemingly non-political activities like sport can become.
It really does. The semifinal is scheduled to take place in Birmingham, UK, so a neutral venue. As a direct result of India's withdrawal, Pakistan now advances directly to the final. No contest on the field. All ticket holders for the match will get refunds, and critically, no rescheduled fixture has been proposed or is likely, which is quite telling in itself. This raises a very important question for you, the listener. Why does a veterans cricket match, featuring retired international players, matter so much on the global stage? Why are we even talking about it? Well, it underscores how broader diplomatic strains continue to profoundly influence sporting ties, even in non-professional exhibition formats like this tournament.
And there's a long history of this with India-Pakistan cricket, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. The historical context here is crucial. India and Pakistan haven't played bilateral cricket, that means series just between the two countries, outside of multi-nation tournaments since way back in 2013. Their encounters are now almost exclusively confined to major multi-nation tournaments, things like the ICC World Cup or the Asia Cup. Even against this backdrop, the two sides are actually slated to meet in the upcoming Asia Cup on September 14th. But these continued tensions, now explicitly impacting even veteran matches, well, they cast significant uncertainty over that highly anticipated fixture as well. The core insight here is that this incident really draws attention to the incredibly fragile nature of India-Pakistan cricket relations, where the sport, despite its immense popularity and, its potential to unify people, is frequently held hostage by political realities and national policy. It just adds to the complexity of managing international sporting events that involve countries with unresolved geopolitical disputes. And the absence of this marquee clash, India versus Pakistan, is always a massive draw for fans, broadcasters, sponsors. It will undoubtedly dampen viewership and sponsorship appeal for this WCL tournament. It serves as a stark reminder to organizers everywhere that sporting diplomacy is indeed tightly intertwined with political realities and can be undone in an instant by historical grievances.
Okay, finally, let's look at an important domestic policy initiative within India. This one emanates from the state of Karnataka. The Karnataka Labor Minister, Santosh Lad, has formally requested the central government to establish a dedicated fund of funds. This is specifically designed to support young industrialists and entrepreneurs from what are known as other backward classes, or OBCs. His letter, dated July 26th, highlighted some compelling demographic data from a 2015 social and educational survey. It revealed that OBCs constitute a substantial 70% of Karnataka's population. That's an enormous demographic block that, despite its size, often faces significant socioeconomic challenges. So this seems like a critical initiative for inclusive growth.
It really does. And this initiative directly tackles a very significant and long-standing issue in India: the recognized lack of financial backing and institutional support that has historically discouraged OBC youth from entering and, crucially, thriving in the industrial and entrepreneurial sectors. Minister Lad's argument is clear. The systemic imbalance necessitates direct state-led intervention to correct it and foster greater inclusivity and economic participation. The proposal itself envisions mobilizing capital from both established government sources and, importantly, from private stakeholders, think angel investors, venture capitalists. The aim is to create a robust, diverse, and sustainable funding mechanism for these aspiring entrepreneurs, helping them overcome those initial capital barriers, access networks, things crucial for success.
And this fits into a broader political context in India right now, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. If we connect this to the broader political and social landscape in India, The timing of this request aligns very clearly with the Congress Party's evolving political narrative. Senior leader Rahul Gandhi recently made a very public, quite candid admission that the party had, in his words, fallen short in adequately addressing OBC concerns over the last decade. That signals a strategic pivot. Furthermore, the party's Bengaluru declaration explicitly called for raising the 50% reservation cap, that's a constitutional limit on affirmative action in public employment and education. Raising that cap signals a renewed and intensified focus on caste-based equity and empowerment within their broader policy agenda. So this shift isn't just about economic policy in isolation. It's a strategic move to address a vast, often underserved demographic and likely shore up political support.
So the fund is more than just providing capital.
Exactly. The core insight here is that this fund is positioned not merely as a corrective economic policy, but really as a strategic vehicle for profound socio-political advancement. It aims to directly ensure that historically marginalized communities are integrated into the state's industrial framework. Given a genuine opportunity to contribute meaningfully to economic growth and wealth creation, it reflects a broader recalibration, perhaps, in Karnataka's governance priorities, where economic inclusion for OBCs is now being explicitly tied to comprehensive investment strategies and long-term policy reform. And this could, in turn, have ripple effects across other states in India, potentially influencing national conversations around inclusive growth, affirmative action, aiming to leverage India's vast human potential by ensuring broader participation in its economic rise. Hashtag outro.
Wow, what an absolutely insightful deep dive we've had today. Really covered a lot of ground. We've spanned everything from those imposing U.S. tariffs impacting India's booming smartphone exports and its strategic choices in energy and defense, to Google's truly massive data center investments in Visakhapatnam, powered impressively by renewable energy, and even the intricate, often frustrating dance of geopolitics playing out, of all places, on a cricket pitch. We've also seen India pushing boundaries in space exploration, with groundbreaking collaborations like NISAR with NASA, adapting global fast food chains to local tastes and health trends, and addressing deep-seated social inequalities through targeted economic policies like that fund proposed in Karnataka. It's a truly dynamic, really multifaceted landscape, isn't it? Where every headline, every seemingly isolated event connects somehow to these larger overarching trends. Globalization, rapid technological advancement, the continuous evolution of India's national identity, and its growing influence on the world stage. It's a complex dance, really, between internal aspirations and external pressures, all unfolding in real time.
It really is. And this brings us to an important question for you, the listener, to maybe consider as you reflect on this deep dive today. As India continues its remarkable rise as a global power, how might its internal socioeconomic policies like the one we just discussed in Karnataka, aimed at empowering historically marginalized communities, fostering inclusive growth, how might those ultimately shape its external diplomatic and trade relationships in the long run? Will domestic inclusion and broad-based prosperity actually be the key to sustained global influence and a more equitable future for India? Or will external pressures like those tariffs we started with continue to dictate its path? Something to think about. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.